The Hurry Up.
Welcome into this week's episode of The Hurry Up. I'm Courtney Cox, and it is time to talk Week 3 in the NFL. We'll give you some injury updates. We'll give you some upsets, some locks, some fantasy advice. But first, we've got Nick Goss in studio to talk some NFL storylines. First and foremost, the Falcons beating the Packers 34-23. They're 2-0 on the season. Matt Ryan had a pretty good night. So that's a big storyline because we're not seeing a hangover from the Super Bowl.
We really aren't. I think the Falcons could have gone one of two ways. They could have used that comeback to really destroy their team, or they could have made it galvanize them and come back even stronger. I think the latter is the case. Not only is Matt Ryan playing well, and the two running backs are fantastic, the defense is playing with a ton of speed. They got a ton of pressure on Aaron Rodgers last week, and they look really good. It was a good win Week 1 as well against Chicago Bears. Super Bowl losers have traditionally fared pretty poorly in their first road game of the season, the following campaign. So the Falcons have good coaching. They've avoided a lot of distractions, and they're playing really well, so you have to like what you see.
All right, moving on to another team that is now 1-1 on the season. The Titans beating Jacksonville. This one was kind of a brutal game for the Jags. The final score 37-16. Marcus Mariota leading that team, of course. What do you see out of this team? I mean, they're 1-1, so they lost to the Raiders in Week 1. They beat Jacksonville. What does this say about this team? Yeah,
I was pretty high on the Titans coming in, and I'm still high on them. Derrick Henry did a tremendous job in Week 2 against the Jaguars. I like the running back situation there. Their defense is improving, and their schedule coming up is really pretty soft. Their next 5 games, Seattle, Houston, Miami, Indianapolis, and Cleveland. The Seattle game is at home. They finished the season against the 49ers, and then the Rams at home, the Jaguars at home. They have a favorable schedule. They don't turn the ball over, and they can run the football. Those are 3 good ingredients to win an AFC South, which might be worse than we originally anticipated.
All right, and last but certainly not least, the Giants were kind of the headliner, if you will, for Monday Night Football. They're 0-2 on the season under Eli Manning. Should Giants fans be nervous? Should they be concerned?
I definitely would be worried if you're a fan of the New York Football Giants. So their next 2 games are tough ones, divisional game against Philadelphia, and then after that, they have to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are a much improved team. They've 3.2 yards per carry is not good enough, especially with Eli Manning struggling. He has an interception in both games, and his receivers just look really bad. Brandon Marshall looks lost. Odell Beckham Jr. came back from injury last night, but he didn't look like he's 100%. The whole team is dropping the football as receivers too much. The defense has played pretty well, but the offense just can't even get to 20 points, and there's a real concern. They have just 13 points on the season, so the schedule is only going to get tougher. They play in a really tough division, so they need to get it on track right away, or the season's going to be lost pretty soon.
Well, it's funny, you know, the new movie It that's just coming out. I don't know if you've seen it, but the meme that it's like, oh, I have your boyfriend's lock code in here, and people are sliding under. There's new ones that are saying I have a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. in here, and Giants fans sliding down. So kind of funny that people are making a joke out of a not so funny situation.
Yeah.
All right, well, great stuff from Nick. As always, you can follow along on him on Twitter at Nick Goss Nesson. But that will do it for this week's NFL storylines. So good job again.
Thank you.
Welcome back into the Nesson Digital Studios. Courtney Cox here with Mike Cole, which means it's time for a little thing we like to do, upsets and locks for Week 3. Mike, last week, not your best week. You're upset. You had Atlanta and Green Bay, but to your defense, you are a Green Bay Packers fan.
Yeah, and the Packers were decimated by injuries.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that.
Yep, and then your lock, you had the Rams beating the Redskins.
Yeah, that one I don't really have as much of an excuse for.
Close game, though, 27-20.
Flip-flop the two of them.
Yes.
That's what I meant to say.
Right.
Right.
We screwed up there.
Yep.
But another week, Week 3, right ahead of us. So let's start with the good news for fans. Who's your lock?
I'm going to go against the Redskins again this week. I'm going to take the Raiders on Sunday night. A little bit tough, you know. It's always a question when Oakland has to go across the country, but 8:30 game. It's going to be. You got to imagine their internal clocks are going to be set pretty well. So I just think I look at that the Redskins team. I still don't think they're very good. I think they just kind of took advantage of some Rams mistakes last week. Credit to them, sure, but the Rams turned the ball over twice. Oakland hasn't turned the ball over all season. The Rams were horrible on third down. Oakland has the third best third down offense in football. There's just so many weapons on that Raiders team. I still don't know what that Redskins team can do on offense. They can't protect the quarterback. quarterback, and now they've got injuries too. Jordan Reed's banged up, Rob Kelly's banged up, Josh Norman's banged up. Just doesn't seem like a very good matchup for Washington, so I'll take the Raiders to keep rolling.
All right, that's your lock, and for your upset.
My upset, this is kind of cheating, but whatever, it's an upset. I like the Indianapolis Colts, which is a scary thing to say as I'm saying it. It's like this is probably a bad idea, but they're about 1.5, 1 point underdogs at home against the Browns. The Browns are road favorites. That hasn't happened since 2014. Cleveland, I like the direction they're going in. It's just still way too many mistakes, too many turnovers. They turned the ball over 6 times over the course of 2 weeks. I feel like they put Indy in a good position here or there in this game to get some points. Indy, I thought Jacoby Brissett looked pretty good in his first game. 1 of 10 according to ESPN stats and info when he was pressured. Cleveland hasn't been able to get after the quarterback. That obviously that Indy offensive line is an issue. I just think Brissett takes another step forward this week. If I'm getting
feels more comfortable.
Yeah, and if I'm getting points at home against the Browns, I'm pretty much always going to take that no matter the situation, even if it means taking that train wreck of a Colts team.
All right, well, I hope that you do better in week 3 than week 2.
Yeah, so do I.
Well, we'll see. Great stuff from Mike, as always. If you want to tweet at him, bash him for his week 2 predictions, or give him some praise.
Condolences.
Yeah, at Mike Cole Nesson is where you should go. But now we're going to send it to our friends Andre and Nick, who are going to have a little bit of a debate, which is exciting because they actually live together in real life.
All right, thanks a lot, Courtney and Mike. Those are some good picks. Mike, we have more picks on the spread later on. Make sure to check that out. But I'm Andre Khatchaturian. I'm here with Nick Goss. Nick, let's talk about an issue in the NFL right now that's really bothering me. The Seattle Seahawks, it took them 8 quarters to get their first offensive touchdown of the year against the San Francisco 49ers. It's taken them 8 quarters. They only have is 1 touchdown. Their quarterback, Russell Wilson, struggling mightily this year so far. Yet people like you still consider him a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Are you out of your mind?
No, I don't deal in hyperbole. He's a top 5 quarterback. The play in that game that they scored the game-winning touchdown typifies why Russell Wilson is not to blame. 3rd and 7, midway through the 4th quarter. The Seahawks are down 9-6. The pocket collapses from both sides, up the middle. Russell Wilson miraculously gets away. He's being tackled. He throws a dime to the left side of the end zone for the game-winning touchdown. That just shows how incredible he is. The offensive line has been so bad. Going into this week, Pro Football Focus ranked 4 of his 5 starting offensive linemen with a grade of 50 or below. They have drafted horribly at offensive line. They haven't brought in any running backs to replace Marshawn Lynch, either through the draft or in free agency or trades. Even last year, he was sacked 41 times, tied for the 2nd most in the NFL. Still had 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 64% completion percentage. 2nd best NFL passer rating of all time. It's the GM has just completely failed this team. If they had an offensive line or running back or competent at either one, they'd be the top Super Bowl contender.
Oh, okay. Let me tell you something then. Russell Wilson in 2013 was sacked 44 times. Highest sacks allowed percentage in the NFL. The offensive line wasn't there at all in 2013 either. Russell Wilson was getting sacked at the same rate he's getting sacked today, this week. But he won the Super Bowl that year. What does that tell me? That tells me there's a lot of other things going around in Seattle that made Russell Wilson successful. They still have a great defense, and I think that defense will help them this year too. But they also had Marshawn Lynch helping them back then. He hasn't had Marshawn Lynch the last couple years. Last year, Russell Wilson threw the ball more than he ever has in his career. That means the ball was in his hand for the first time in his career. He was dictating the offense. But he threw the ball more than he ever has. He set career highs in interception, 2nd lowest touchdown total, lowest yards per attempt in his career, and the career low in passer rating. This year he's on pace to throw the ball again 528 times, which will be the 2nd highest total after last year, and he's struggling yet again. I'm not buying into him. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but I can't say he's a top 5 quarterback.
So the career high interceptions last year was last year? He only had 11 last year. That's not a very high number. High. And yeah, he had to throw more passes than he ever had because the running game is horrible.
Correct.
Show me a quarterback who wins a Super Bowl with the running game he has.
The Giants?
Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw were pretty solid, and they had a great defense.
We're an Adrian Peterson. Marshawn Lynch was like an Adrian Peterson-esque
very good,
back.
And when he leaves, they replaced him with C.J. Pro-sized and the Carson kid they have now.
I agree.
It's a considerable drop-off.
He doesn't have much going for him in Seattle right now, but I am sick and tired of hearing all these excuses for him. I think he's not a top 5 quarterback. Top 10, sure, I'll put him in that class. Top 15, sure. Top 12, yeah. But I can't say he's a top 5 quarterback when there's guys like Andrew Luck who gets sacked a lot, but he can win the game with his arm.
Andrew Luck's horrible in the postseason. He always makes some really bad throws.
Guess who else threw a game-ending pick against the Patriots in the postseason? Russell Wilson.
No, it wasn't his fault. The play calling there was atrocious.
All right, whatever. We got Darren Hartwell sitting across the set right now. He's ready to give us fantasy waiver wire advice. Darren, Courtney, take it away.
Great stuff from Andre and Nick, as always. Can't get enough of those two. But now we've got our guy, Darren Hartwell. We're headed into week 3. That means that's 2 weeks of injuries. There's no doubt about that. So it's time for your waiver wire pickups. Darren's our fantasy guy. He knows who you want to pick for your NFL fantasy rosters. So let's get right into this. Let's start with wide receivers. Heading into week 3, who you want to pick up?
Yeah, I think the concern, the injuries is Jordy Nelson, obviously, but he still might be able to go for week 3. But the guy I like in the waiver wire is J.J. Nelson on the Cardinals. Again, benefits from an injury. John Brown missed last game, and then J.J. Nelson had a big play, 5 catches again, and a touchdown over 100 yards. So he's kind of a sneaky play. I think Larry Fitzgerald's the top target there, but with Brown out of the lineup, he's good for some big plays.
All right, so let's go from wide receivers to tight end.
Yep. Tight end Greg Olsen is the big loss. He's actually going to be out a while. It looks like 6 games.
Tough for Panthers fans over
there.
He was on the sideline though.
Yeah.
He was bringing morale.
Moral support.
Yep.
That moral support, no fantasy points for that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
But the guy who can get you some fantasy points, David Njoku on the Browns. Sorry, he's a rookie, and Corey Coleman is out for the Browns. So Njoku might see a few more targets, rookie quarterback and a rookie tight end in Kaiser and Njoku. Maybe there's a little bit of a connection there. He started to get assimilated into the offense a little bit, so I like him going forward. Also, Jason Witten, only 67% owned in Yahoo leagues, and he's had 2 big games in weeks 1 and 2. So I kind of like him. If he's still hanging around, he's a steady stream of targets there.
All right, and running backs.
Yeah, I think this is probably my pickup of the week is Chris Carson on the Seahawks. Nick and Andre were talking about Russell Wilson's struggles and the Seahawks' struggles. I do think they have a pretty strong commitment to the run game. If they can't get things going in the passing game, they like to give Carson the ball. He got 20 touches, 20 rushing attempts last game for 93 yards, and he's the number 1 back, it looks like, ahead of Thomas Rawls. So even if the Seahawks have their offensive struggles, the number 1 guy on the team likes to run the ball. He should be owned in pretty much every league, I would say.
All right, well, great stuff from Darren as always, and we're now going to send it to our guy, the guy, Ricky Doyle, for some show and tell. I'm sure you're all very excited for this at home.
The name of the game is show and tell. This is where I bring in objects each week and use them to give you a few developing thoughts I have on the 2017 NFL season. First up this week, I'm going to bring a couple of good friends of mine in. We got my friend E, as in Eli Manning, and my friend Russ, as in Russell Wilson. And I got news for you. They entered the season very jovial, thinking the teams are going to contend in the NFC, and maybe they will stick around for a little bit. But then it's bam, face planting right off the face of the earth, because they don't have an offensive line. Either of these teams, the Giants and the Seahawks, both are struggling to protect the quarterback, and until they do so, I don't think they're going to make any noise in the NFC this season. Sure, they both have great defenses, but that's only going to go so far in the NFC when you have teams like the Packers and the Falcons, 2 high-powered offenses capable of exploiting that defense and also be able to protect the quarterback. So Giants and Seahawks in trouble so far. They're going to right the ship, certainly along the offensive line. Next up, we're going to bring in a Snickers bar, because I heard a lot of snickering when the Lions gave that huge contract to Matthew Stafford. Those Snickers have since evaporated because the Lions are 2-0 and they look legit. And it's not only because of Matthew Stafford, but it's also because of that defense. Made some improvements over the offseason. Young defense led by first-round pick Jarrad Davis. Ziggy Ansah looks like he's healthy and back to his usual self. The secondary looks good, led by Darius Slay and Glover Quinn. I think the Lions are going to make some noise in the NFC. Dare I say, maybe even win a playoff game this year, which is just crazy talk when you start talking about the Detroit Lions. Finally, I'm bringing in a plug, and this is what the Bengals got to do. They got to pull the plug on Marvin Lewis. It's been a nice little run, 15 years, second longest tenured head coach in the NFL behind Bill Belichick, but they need a change. They almost had a mutiny on their hands before they fired their offensive coordinator. Haven't scored a touchdown yet this season. Things are just getting real stale in Cincinnati, and they need to pull the plug on the Marvin Lewis era before he goes 0-8 in wildcard games, because right now he's 0-7. The Bengals have their struggles. They don't look legit. See you later, Marvin Lewis. Let's make some changes in Cincinnati.
That will do it for this week's episode of the Hurry Up. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next week, same time, same place. But keep it locked in at NESN.com in the meantime, because we've got everything you need to know about your favorite NFL teams.